Guitar nerds, what's up? How's everybody doing? What's happening out there? What have I got to report? I went last night to an amazing guitar show at the Mint here in LA. Michael Landau and Kirk Fletcher, Val McCallum, all with their respective bands. Mike played in Val's band, which was really cool, and then proceeded to come up and just destroy. It was really interesting because he, I'm so used to seeing him. As a matter of fact, I've only seen him at the Baked Potato in LA. So it was interesting to see him somewhere else. And it's kind of a lower volume sort of venue. Although the volume came up kind of during the show a little bit, but it was still like not as loud as it would be at the Baked Potato. The thing about Mike's show is he's very dynamic. So he's the most dynamic guitar player. He's the best guitar player, but he's also the most dynamic guitar player. And so it can be very quiet at times. I mean, like to a whisper, but then it can be loud at times. That's how he plays. He's brilliant with that. And so he was using some sort of slave rig last night with like a park head and I think a Morgan. And I don't know what was the main sort of, which was serving as the reamp and which was serving as the tone source. But then he was going into Sir reactive load and then going through his time-based effects and stuff like that. And so it was a very controlled volume, but boy, was the tone good. He's always got a great tone, no matter what he uses. It can be different, but it's always great. So it was really interesting. Anyway, it was such a good show. Good vibe in there, too. I haven't been to the Mint in years. I used to play there. It's on Pico, kind of... I don't know what you'd call the area, mid Wilshire or something, or like it's like not West LA because you're not that far west. It's a little bit east of La Cienega, if you're a transplant to LA or new here, right in between La Brea and La Cienega. Sorry, La Brea and La Cienega. Fairfax and La Cienega, really. And anyway, I haven't been there for years, but I used to play there years ago, like 20 years ago. I was playing there I used to play in Brian Ray's band there. I used to play there with singer-songwriter named Laura Harding. Lots of gigs at the Mint over the years. One time I left a guitar there for a week. I didn't pack it in my car, and there's a storeroom in the back where, when you're loading your gear in and out, that's where you put the gear while the one band's loading in, the other band's loading out or whatever. It's just a kind of place to store your gear or whatever. And I thought, where's my guitar? I was looking for it at home and I was like, where the hell's my guitar? Looking around, couldn't find it. I thought, where's the last place I remember? And it was like, I played it last week at the Mint on one song, I remember. And I drove over there and there it was in the back room. Up on the shelf in the storeroom. It's been there a week. What a bonehead. But anyway, that's the Mint. And so cool stuff. What else happened this week? Dylan mentioned the song in Italy, Made for Fun video to watch. Thanks. Yeah, it was so much fun working with Tora and all the other guitar players. And for those that haven't seen, it's on the IK Multimedia YouTube. I put up some links on my Facebook and stuff, and maybe on YouTube. I think I put up a link. But it was a tune that it was her tune, Tora. It was a great singer-songwriter from Norway. She lives in Oslo, and a great guitar player. And she sort of donated this song, and we stripped it away, all the guitars and stuff, and then we performed 5 different guitar parts kind of live in the video. And I really feel like we somehow managed to achieve not having it too busy or overcrowded. Like everybody picked their lane and we played all those guitars down live, just as you hear them in the video. And it was great. Everybody stayed out of each other's way. And it was just really cool, a neat meeting of, people from all over the world kind of getting together, and 48 hours later, because we went over the song the first day and kind of split up the parts, and and everybody had some great suggestions and stuff. And then we also got our tones together, kind of, because it was sort of for a kind of a live sort of demo of Tone X, really, is what it was. We all used a Tone X, so everybody picked their amps and their sounds, and they have a really nice studio there at IK. It's in Modena, Italy. So we also got to go to the Ferrari factory. That was fun. I think I mentioned that last week. It was really neat because that's where they're based. But it was just a blast, really fun. So that's what I went there to do. When I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks that I was over there, but that's what I was there to do, was really track that tune and just kind of do it. So speaking of IK, how about that Future Tone X update? Yeah, I don't know how much I can say about that. I did find out about it, but they definitely, I'll just say they do have some cool stuff brewing there. That's for sure. Some great stuff, like really, they're really forward thinking and sort of pushing forward. And they make everything there. There's in the video you can see us walking around the factory, and it was a decision they made there to manufacture at that facility. And most stuff like that, most electronics these days is all farmed out to overseas and stuff to go do. And they were like, no, we want to make this stuff here. And I was like, that's a big decision. It was obviously like the equipment and everything that I saw there, and the expertise and the people operating it and stuff. It was impressive, and they're very proud of that. That they're making it there and made that decision to produce. So when you buy the little Tone X1 or those, they're produced right there in that facility. Everything. It's really cool. So really interesting, and really, really nice people. So, yeah. Are you going to Peter Frampton's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction? I don't think so, but I'm very happy for him. My good friend Peter, he's a wonderful dude, and nobody is more deserving. He is a legend, and so I'm super stoked for him. Yeah. I picked up a Tone X pedal, has a high pitch whine. Any ideas in getting rid of that? Is it all the time, or I would just probably try and trade it out for another one? Maybe there's just an issue. I did see things like when I was there, their quality control is very interesting. Like the circuit boards and things, they have these like the computer analyzes the circuit board after everything's soldered, and because it's like the traces and everything are all done on the board, and then any parts that are installed, that's mostly all done by machines, in the shop right there, all run by people. But then the computer has that like an analyzation program where to look at everything during that particular process in the manufacturing, and it can identify problems if there's any kind of like a potentially cold joint, or something that didn't get soldered right, or something that's not attached right, or any of that kind of stuff on any of because it's done in sheets at a time of like PC boards, so there might be 10 on a sheet or something, say Tone X1 PC boards, and then they all break apart after and go inside the individual pedals. So it was really interesting. I found it quite interesting indeed. Any recommendations for streets or neighborhoods in Tokyo for checking out guitar gear? Well, yeah, Ochanomizu is the main sort of traditional guitar district. It's pretty amazing. It's about 2 full blocks, maybe 2.5 or 3, both sides of the street, guitar stores. So if you could just go to the Ochanomizu either subway or train station. They're both right there. And you walk across this if you're at the subway station, you walk across a little bridge. If you're at the train station, you're already across the bridge. And then the neighborhood is right there. It starts, the street's right there where all the guitars are. You could just say, get out of the train and say, "Guitar wa doko desu ka?" And people will go that way and point you. Where's the guitars? Where's the guitar? Guitar wa doko desu ka? And what else? I would recommend going to Hyper Guitars if you like vintage stuff. Amazing, beautiful vintage store down in the basement in kind of the north part of Shinjuku, or Daikanyama, close to Shibuya. There's a store called Guitar Traders that I love. It's kind of limited hours and stuff, so sometimes I go there and it's like closed. It's like, oh yeah, it's Wednesday. It's not open today. But you might want to check the hours and stuff before you go. But it's a great shop, beautiful, really cool, just classy. Hyper and Guitar Trader, like really classy stores. And then there's a bunch of other, like I remember going to this one store. It was almost like in a kind of like almost like in a house. I mean, it wasn't a house, but it was like a almost residential neighborhood. And it was close to Shimokitazawa, one subway stop from Shimokita, and it was really cool too, really neat. Kind of a sort of very small sort of mom and pop operation, but like lots of cool vintage and upstairs from Hyper Guitars, right beside it, there's a store that has a lot of Japanese vintage guitars. They also have some American stuff in there, and on the second floor, third floor. But on the main floor, you'll see that it's mostly um, uh, Japanese vintage, like Tokai and Bernie and stuff like that. It's really cool. And then, just if you're in Shibuya, you can go to the Ikibe, which is really a great new store, because even that is really, I mean, the new stores are really interesting. They'll have beautiful selections of, Fender and Gibson and PRS and all that. And they'll have some stuff that you just don't see in America. Like, for example, they'll go over Ikibe and select tops at Gibson. And I guess stores do that in America too. But the selection will be pretty amazing of like, custom shop, historic R9 Les Pauls or something that they've selected the tops and the weights, and they've gone over and picked them all, and they'll be very beautiful. Wide selection of guitars to pick from. And then you could go also to Ishibashi. It's a really big, beautiful, great store. They've got vintage as well as new in Shibuya. So that'd be pretty much a whole day. If you hit Hyper, and if you hit Guitar Traders, and then if you made it to Ishibashi, and if you made it to Ikibe, and then if you somehow made it to Ochanomizu, that would be a very full day of guitars. And you would see thousands of guitars. Yeah. What's up, Finland? We got Finland in the house. Love it. We got some shows coming up there. I don't think they've been announced yet, but Classic Rock Show, I'll be over there in January, February, I think, to play some gigs, if not early March. Can't remember exactly, but should be fun. Looking forward to getting back to Finland. That was really fun last year playing there. Ooh, we get a super chat there. I'm gonna grab that in a sec. Yeah. How to set your Thornbucker Plus and Les Paul Custom was kind of dark sounding. I would venture a guess that could be your electronics. I mean, have you double checked to see that it's not 300K pots? It depends on the year of the guitar, but I would not classify Thornbuckers as dark ever. So that could be just an exceptionally dark sounding guitar, or it might be you just make sure the volume pots are definitely 500K. Measure them, or just get some from. I'm very reluctant to recommend CTS. There's other pots out there now, but get some, super pots or something like that from Dunlop or one of the others, and just make sure they're definitely 500K at least. It would be odd for a Thornbucker to be considered dark, because they're just not. They're kind of a brighter pickup. They have a very open. They've got a sweet top end, but it's an open top end, especially because of the wind. So, it'd be odd. What do I think of DiMarzio Evolution and PAF Pro combo and a basswood body for 80s? Well, I mean, that was kind of I don't know that much about them, to tell you the truth. I mean, that was kind of the PAF Pro for sure, at least back in the day, in basswood for 80s shred and hard rock. Sure, I'm a little more of a, obviously I have my own signature pickups, so 80s shred and hard rock. I mean, I would probably go. There's so many ways you can go. it really depends. In basswood, I really like the sound of the Wolfgang guitars. I mean, I just do, so I like the Wolfgang pickup for a hotter, but it's basically kind of an A2 13 or 14 case. You're not far off with like a custom, um, that kind of pickup. Uh, I would say so. If it was DiMarzio I was going for, it'd be more the Tone Zone and the Air Norton combo is the one that I would like. I would say because that was supposed to be sort of close to the Eddie pickups that came in the what became the Axis, his model. But I'm kind of more of a JB 59 kind of guy. If it's one from the big two from Duncan or DiMarzio, kind of like that, for 80s. I mean, when I think of 80s shred, like some of the best tones to me is like Warren, you know. It's not. I don't even think of Warren as a shredder. He's just a great guitar player, but uh, I think he was basically a JB guy back in the day. And a JB into if you're doing 80s, you're probably modded Marshall or something. It's just a cool tone for a higher output kind of thing, you know. And then if you want a warmer top end, you go to the custom, or if you want a SIR pickup, my recommendation for those high output jobbies is a HSS Plus. It's great. That's what I've got in my kind of shredder guitar here. The Black Sparkle that you saw in this guy. Ooh, look at that finish. Yeah. HSS Plus. Or is it an SSH Plus? I always get that mixed up because it's the same, Single screw hot. I think it's an SSH Plus, whereas my guitar is an HSS Custom. I'm never going to remember that, so let's just get that out of the way. I'm always going to screw that up, and that's just how it is. I do like names for things, as opposed to is it acronym when you shorten something or have a, because SSH Plus stands for single screw hot. And the reason is, for those that ever wondered, single row of screws and a slug coil. I guess it could be single slug, but I think it's single screw. That's why the DSH is double screw. Those have 2 rows of the adjustables. But I sort of wish that, that's why I like Thornbucker, because it's got a name, right? And it's like it's easy. It's easier to remember than, because I screw that up every time. SSH, HSS. So I don't know. Anyways, would you ever use an analog multi-effect all-in-one like the Jam Cautious Supreme? I don't know that one, but there's some cool ones out there. I mean, Keeley does some really cool things combining effects, and I always loved the Ibanez from back in the day that had the tube screamer and the analog chorus and stuff all in one, and an analog delay. Pretty cool. Like, if I found one of those now somewhere, I would probably buy it, because it's just neat. Like remember them? They were brown and they had 3 different effects all in one. Pretty cool. I haven't seen the Jam one, so I'd have to check it out. But yeah, if your needs are simple and you need, like, if there was a compressor and an analog chorus and an analog delay, kind of fun, it's like that's pretty cool, get yourself that, and then maybe into and a screamer or something, into some kind of a deluxe reverb that's already got reverb in it or something. Great rig, pretty fun. Did you demo the new Keeley PSI thing yet? No. So with Keeley, I just mentioned Keeley. I bet Robert's mad at me. I've got a pedal here I was supposed to do ages ago, and I just haven't gotten to it. And I'm like, I just feel bad. Keeley is awesome. They make the greatest. Like super great effects, and they're one of the OGs as far as just gonna turn my fan. It's getting hot in here. As far as the boutique effects, I love them, but I'm just overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I got to do. So I haven't tackled it. And I got it. What I want to do is make Keely a nice video just soon for a bunch of stuff, and just as a gift to them, because it's like I don't know. It's a long story, but it's just like I was supposed to do so much, and then I didn't, just haven't had time. So that's all it is. There's so much to do. I'm off to do clinics tomorrow, by the way. I'm gonna hit that super chat I missed in a second here, but I'm off to do clinics tomorrow. I'm headed to Grand Rapids, Michigan, Firehouse Guitars, to do my first Inspired by the Tone clinic. And I was inspired by the tones last night at the Mike Landau show, so that gave me lots of ideas. But yeah, so I'm headed there tomorrow, and then I'm going to Sweetwater to do one as well the following day. So I'll be out that neck of the woods for the next couple of days and stuff. Then back here for a few days, and I'm going to knock out some more videos. I got a couple on the go right now. One for the Artifact from Source Audio, really fun lo-fi box that I did a wacky track with. And then for something else that's coming out soon that I can't tell you about. But those will be coming out. So lots of videos coming. Did you see my video for the Big Sky this week? That was fun. I think I put that out this past week. I lose track sometimes, even when exactly they came out, but that was really fun. Love that thing. Incredible sounding. I'm gonna hit that super chat there in a sec, but hi from a sunny autumn. It's not an ottoman, that's a piece of furniture. Yeah, hi from a sunny autumn day in Nova Scotia. I recently got a Space Echo RE202, mainly because of a demo you did. Oh, so like a pedal version, not like the real old school one, right? But the pedals are great. Do you have one yourself? I do. Yeah, I've got the pedal versions. I would love an original too, but they do a great job recreating it in pedal form. Fantastic. That's Todd. Good to see you. Joe Wyatt, thanks for doing the review on the Fryette Deliverance. Hey, thank you. And thank you for the super chat, my friend. Always thought of Deliverance as a super heavy and not my thing. I ended up buying the 122 Plus and absolutely love it. Yeah, I always thought it was a super heavy thing too, like that it was a metal amp primarily, but it's really pretty great at the 70s tones and stuff too. Like it's got a kind of a versatile thing going on with the gain staging, the way you can blend those gain knobs and stuff, and really get a pretty legit, like say Van Halen kind of Marshall sound out of it, or even lower gain, more punchy kind of high waddy sort of mid gain, excuse me. But yeah, good amp. I'm glad I was able to maybe help reveal that, or say, hey, like it's not just a one-trick pony or something, because it'll do heavy as well. But JJ, thanks again for the super chat, Joe. Is the PT50 going to have a reactive load built in, or will it just be the amp? I'm really pushing for that. If there's a technical limitation or some issue, then that would be, I'd say, all right, let's just not, if there was an issue, because it's, of course, 50 watts, it's a little more demanding as far as a load that's built into an amplifier, a little more demanding than 15 watts. But I'm definitely pushing for it, and we're working towards that goal. So it would be my hope that it will, and I hope that it does, and it's my intention for it too. How is the quality of Orville? Orville guitars were Japan-made Gibson, basically. So I'm not sure where or what factory they were made in. I don't know that much about them, but there was a little Canadian that came out there about them. But they are cool. Everyone I've tried over there has been really cool, like really, really well made Gibson style. Maybe they were made by Edwards or something. I don't know. I'm not sure where they made those. That's ESP. Probably not. I'm not sure where. I could do a Google search and figure out the history of Orville. You don't see a ton of them anymore. You mainly see Takai, Bernie, Greco. See a lot of those. Orville, some, At least that's my experience. I mean, I have seen plenty. I remember seeing a really cool Orville John Sykes Les Paul over there. Like, it all, I don't know if it had been converted or what, but it had the metal pickup rings and all that stuff, and that was the aesthetic. It was cool. So yeah, I had a guitar with great pickups and good electronics that sounded dark. Turns out it was a bad ground solder on the tone pot. Yeah, that can happen, and then it's bleeding high end, things like that. I would definitely like if it was like these pickups are really dark. I would be like, well, it's not the pickups. It could be the wiring or it could be the pots. Something's happening, if you've got Thorn buckers and they sound really dark, or there's something else in your rig, Yeah. How are you placed for pedal demos? Somebody says. I'm not sure what that means. But maybe you can phrase it a different way and I will try and answer. Just not sure what you're asking actually. Yes, and SRV just had a recent birthday. Some Todd saying 70, I believe. He should still be rocking. He really should be. It's such a sad loss. Way too young. And I still remember the day he passed away. That was terrible. Nerd Halen says, I'm never been able to find a Les Paul I've connected to, but yesterday I tried one of those new Greenie 59s. Oh, cool. Awesome. Hey, if you find your one finally. I mean, Gibsons were an acquired taste for me. Like as far as just being able to play them, I had a difficulty with the whole everything, like the even the edge on the the binding going around the edge. I used to play it, and I was so used to the Strat angle, the whatever the arm contour is what I'm trying to say. I used to cut my arm. I mean, I'd literally like be bleeding on the guitar when I started playing Les Pauls. It was crazy. I don't know what it was. Maybe this particular Les Paul had a particularly sharp edge, just kind of the binding and stuff. But my first Les Paul, I'd look down, I'd be like, holy shit, like I'm bleeding all over the guitar. That's not good. I remember my tech coming out and give me a towel. I was like, this is sort of above and beyond the Call of Duty, dude. I'll handle this. It's like, but I wasn't expecting him to, but it was a mess. Very strange. So, Dory says, my hair's shiny. Thanks. It's still there. So that's good. Oh man, looking through some of the comments here. What else are we talking about? Did Pete answer your question on the reactive load in PT50? Yes, I did. Yeah. I'm still just we're still just trying to figure it out, but it's our intention. It's what I want for sure. How would you use the EQ on a Boss GE7? Well, you can use it in a bunch of different ways. You can use it to boost mids into the front of an amp to just get a solo boost, but without adding an overdrive. You can use it to reshape the tone of pickups on a guitar to get a wacky sound or something, or a thinner sound, or there's no hard and fast rules. I think Slash used to use it as a solo boost. It's got a level knob, so you can use it as a clean boost, but clean with color because you can EQ if you want to. Yeah, Eddie used to use it to just kind of tune the sound going into the amplifier, and really as kind of a buffer, to drive long cable lengths, I think was what they used to say back in the day. But he picked up some in Japan when they were on tour over there, and then you'd see him in his rig because this was before the days when people knew anything about buffers and stuff. But anything he was losing by going through a flanger and a phaser and all the stuff that was in line, and then long cables, he'd put the EQ last in the chain, I think, and that would definitely, if he used a 25 or 20 foot cable, a couple cables between the flanger and the phaser, maybe an Echoplex, and then you went into all the way out to the amp. I mean, you'd be running like a lot of cable. I don't know kind of if the Echoplex buffered technically, but I don't think so. I think they were pretty high impedance coming out. I think an Echoplex, pretty sure. So putting a Boss EQ after all that stuff to then drive, because it would be technically when it's on with a little switch, the G1. What do they call it? The G100 or I'm forgetting the name of the old Boss EQ with the big old graphic. I have one here, but anyways, it would be, I think, low impedance coming out of that, and that would drive the cable going all the way should sound healthier by the time it got to the Marshall. And plus, then he could tune the sound with the EQ a little bit. And so pretty cool. Somebody saying Deep Squirrel saying a super distortion was classic for the 80s shredder thing too. I sort of think of the super distortion as more of a 70s thing, to be honest, than an 80s thing. Sure, people still used them into the 80s, but there was other pickups then that I think, like, Ace Frehley and Eddie Van Halen, I think, were playing around with super distortions and stuff in the 70s. And Tom Schultz, maybe, didn't he use one? I think. And then by the 80s we had some other stuff. I don't know. I can't think of any like what I would consider an 80s shredder that used a super distortion in particular in, say, the mid to late 80s. Maybe somebody out there can think of one if anybody knows, Also consider Aaron Norton, Tone Zone, amazing old school hard rock metal sound. Yeah, those were the ones I was recommending for if you were going to go with the pickups that start with D. Yeah. Have you tried Seymour Duncan pots? I think so. They sent me. I think I did. I think they sent me one, and I tried it in something a while back. And I tried a Dunlop Super Pot, which is pretty cool too, I think. Any experience with Wolf Tone? No, I don't actually. The Marshall heads are very well respected pickups, though, the ones you were saying. So I haven't tried them. I always kind of wanted to, but you tend to, once you get your own, like, I guess, quality problems, whatever. But once you get your own, like a signature thing or whatever, and you can try different wines and stuff and work with a company, you tend to try other stuff less. I guess I still get to try stuff because of my job, but a lot of pickups isn't one thing that I'm not out buying. Like, maybe I should be to listen to other things, I've tried a lot of pickups over the years, but just there's so many boutique manufacturers now. I mean, WCR, I remember Crossroads. I had some of those. What else I don't know. I mean, a ton of different Duncans over the years. Like much of their line I've played with. You hear other stuff. I've tried, I guess, also, Pariah, which I really like. Is it RS? I'm forgetting the name of. I'm a little slow. I came down with something this week, and I'm a little like brain dead. It's the weirdest thing that I came down with. It like came on like a freight train 2 days ago. Runny nose, post-nasal, coughing, like really bad. Went into my chest, and then like now I'm like I'm still sick, but I have none of that anymore. Nose isn't really just a little congested, but I'm not. It just kind of like resolved. It's so weird. It's like I'm used to getting sick and being sick for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This was like hell for one day, and then just sort of like my lungs are a little tight. I can feel that it went here, but then like I didn't take NyQuil or anything last night. Went to sleep, didn't wake up coughing or any of that crap, and I'm just like, what is going on? Like this is the weirdest sort of like 48 hours, and now it's just sort of residual. Feels like it's resolving. Very weird. Anyways. Audio Star at a good sale picked up a Burl Top EVH standard for $399. That's a really inexpensive guitar. That's great. Good deal. Are those the ones that are made? Are they like Indonesian or something? Must be. It's not like a Japan made one or something, right? EVH standard. Probably pretty good guitar though. I don't know. Peter says, if I have my amplitude pedalboard power supplies are all plugged into a Furman, should I be worried about ground loops? Well, no. It's not really, doesn't really work like that. Generally pedals and stuff are cool if they're going to isolated power and everything like that. Ground loops more result from multiple paths to ground. Like if you were using, for instance, like a modeler, and it's got I don't know why this is exactly, like where the ground loop comes from, but let's say you're running it in front of the amp. Let's say you're running a Strymon pedal. Like, how you can use them pre and post, like a Mobius, you can use and then patch it either in front of the amp and in the loop of the amp if you use the outputs in a certain way. You can also do that with H9. you're going to run into ground loops when you do that. I'm not sure exactly why. So it's situation dependent, but it's like when you're running a single pedal into the front of the amp, coming back out to it, and then going back into the effect loop, you always run into ground loop, and you always have to isolate the input going to the amp, I find, to break it. So it's just kind of, it depends. And then it's more like if you're using like an AB box, like a, let's say like a radial or something, and they've got a solution for this built in. If you use like a radial AB and it's going to two amplifiers, and both amplifiers are plugged in with their 3-prong cables connected, you got a Marshall and a twin reverb or something, and you're going to AB them, you get a ground loop. Well, as soon as you flip the isolation switch on output B on your radial box going to the second amp, it's going to break that ground loop, and it's going to do it in the audio path, not in the AC path. And then you'll be better. But somebody else might be able to explain it better than me here. But if it's just pedals going into an amplifier and everything's plugged into one Furman, all the pedals are on a pedal board going in a row into the front of the amp, you'll be fine. If you've got a bunch of pedals going in the front of the amp and one of them is 4 cable going to the loop and also to the front, you're going to have a ground loop there. So, and it's just multiple paths to ground. I'm going to move a little faster through the chat here if I can. Was wondering how you remember so many cover songs. I don't actually. I'm really forgetful. So I don't have the ability to actually remember like note for note. Like if I had to play what I did last year in last year's classic rock show set, I'd have to review for a couple days. I will come back, but I couldn't get up and do the set right now. I couldn't get up and do a set with Don Henley right now, of all the songs. I would have to go back and review and listen to all the parts that I played 10 years ago or whatever. I learned them once. It's almost like my memory bank clears out from the new set of stuff. I don't retain all the parts, and I think that's probably most people. Maybe some people have an uncanny ability to remember everything, but I don't. I have to go back and review. So as long as it's in my head for that year, like it's about a year that I seem to remember things. Because like if I had to go play a Five for Fighting show right now, could probably do it like cold. It's been a couple months since I've played. Could probably go out, walk on stage. I might make a few mistakes, but it's like I can remember most of the guitar parts to the songs and the changes and everything. Generally, we'll have a rehearsal, every year or two, maybe just one, and then we'll go out and do a tour in the summer. That's what we've done for the last 3 years. And I will forget a couple things before and then so a year will have gone by. I'll go into rehearsal. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. And then I'll go out and within a couple shows, I'm like all there. I remember everything again. I always use the song Bat Out of Hell, which we do, which is really interesting, but we do it in classic rock show. People love it when we play it in England. And it is a 7-minute just opus of like all this crazy stuff. And it's like in F, it's in a terrible guitar key. And it is the gold standard for me of remembering guitar parts because it comes fast at you. And there's not a lot of repetition in it. It's like a rock opera or whatever. So it's like it's a lot of dynamics and a lot of moving around and a lot of little riffs and things that build all the way up the neck and little flourishes and stuff like that. And you have to be on autopilot with the memory with it. So that's my test of like how well I remember. I always have to go over it. I always have to review it. I couldn't sit down and it would be really interesting for me to try that actually, to just wing it and see how much of it I could get right now. Because even on the road, sometimes I space and forget a line or two in it because it's just such a weird key too. Like I don't know about you guys, but like F for me, I'm not a jazzer and stuff. And or B flat. It's like I just didn't spend a lot of time playing in those in between positions on the guitar. So when I do, everything looks a little weird. Or feels a little, it's almost easier if I just don't look at the neck, but that's impossible to do in that song because it's moving around so much. So it's always a challenge, but I figure that that is good for my mind and for to ward off dementia, like to to try and remember this stuff every year and stuff, and just to it's probably good to keep the old mind moving, learn things. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I love the feeling. I love the challenge. I like learning things and feeling that like I'm working on Japanese right now. So every day I do my Duolingo and stuff and learn new words and learn new phrases and stuff. And then you forget, like, it's like, how do you say, clean? Oh, kide. Right. Oh, yeah. How do you say nurse? I think it's kangoshi. It's like little words that I'm always forgetting. Maybe somebody's Japanese and can confirm I got those words right. But and then like exit, it might be doga or denga, but one of them is also videos. Like when you're watching videos, denga, I think, or deng. I don't know. Anyways, these are like new words that I've just learned over the past couple days, and it's like getting them in there and then remembering them. But it feels really good. Like I love the feeling of working on it every day and tackling new phrases, new words, new stuff. So, um, all right. There's a super chat there from Chris. Let's check that one. How many? I would just say as well, just before I do that, on the last question, is like how to any strategies. My strategy I made a whole video on this, by the way, so you can watch it. It's in my So You Want to Be a Pro Musician series of videos on YouTube. My strategy for learning songs is figure out for you how many you can kind of learn in a day, however you learn. I mean, like, do you learn off YouTube videos? Do you learn like by ear? Whatever it is. For me, it's about 3 songs a day, like normal songs. I'm not talking like really difficult, with Van Halen solos and things that I'm trying to tackle. I'm talking more, I need to learn a Heart song, or I need to learn a Rolling Stone song. I will learn like 3 a day. Pretty good, Then I'll come back in the morning the next day and I will have forgotten a lot the next morning, and I'll go back and I'll review and go, oh yeah. And then I'll kind of tighten it up in the morning. So I'll spend an hour and a half or something, an hour or whatever, like going over those 3 and kind of solidifying them and getting them pretty darn good. It's like, okay, now I got it. Then I'll do 3 more that day. Come back the next day, maybe review the first 3 just a little bit, review the 3 that I did that day, the previous day. And I'll do that for about 4 days until I've got up to about 12 songs. And then on the 5th day, I'll review everything I've got, those 12 or whatever. Next day, I'll start on another 3. So do 3, 6, 9. Maybe you review on the 4th day. So you've got 9 tunes to go over, and then you add another 9. That kind of thing. That's my like. I don't try and learn 15 in a day or something. I learn a few, and I will budget if I'm going. Okay, I got a tour in a month, and I need to learn 25 songs. I'll just budget my time, so that I've learned everything a week before I got to leave on tour, and now I'm just reviewing and getting ready for rehearsals. And then you go into rehearsals or whatever, you get in there, and then it really solidifies. Because here's the thing, there's something about learning things by yourself in a room on your own where it just doesn't quite get in there 100% like it does the first time you play it with other musicians. Isn't that weird? Like, you're like, do I know this? Do I have it? I think I've got it. I'm not sure. And then as soon as you get in a room and you're standing up playing loud with other players, you play it once and you're like, that was pretty good. I just messed up the bridge, but can we do that again? Then you hit it again. It's like, then it's in there, and it like, now you've got it. But there's nothing like playing it with other people to solidify it. It's such a strange thing. Anyway, that's my little method for learning songs. The 3 song a day, get up to a certain point and then spend a day reviewing, and then learn more after that until you know them all. How many revisions of the PT100 and cab have there been? Is there any technical difference between the blackface model with black piping versus white piping? The new one, white piping? What, like, which ones you mean? It depends. The main difference is if it says custom audio on the front. If it's a custom audio PT100, it's a fairly different amplifier. Similar clean channel, less similar overdrive channel, although not like worlds apart, but pretty tweaked. So the custom audio ones, great amp, just different, a little more similar to the old Sir, the close to the Classic Plus, not the same, but that would be what we started with. That was my custom audio PT100. When it says Sir on the front, now it's a different amplifier, really. And then the only difference between the different, like the silver face one, the blue face one, the black face one, if they say Sir on the front, is John would sometimes make revisions so that they were more streamlined and easier to build, more serviceable, little things like that. Same circuit, same amp, basically, but he would do things to just kind of, he's always trying to like improve. And, if you could do something with like in an easier way, so it was a little more efficient to build and stuff, he would do that. And so when we get all the way to the latest version, it's got some tweaks from, say, the silver one that came out in 2014, but they sound basically the same. So, yeah, the cabinets, we originally came out with the 212 that was horizontal, and then a 412 more recently. And the 212s have G12H creamback 75s because, you can higher power handling for 100-watt amp so it's got 150 watts power handling in those 212s. It's pretty safe with a 100-watt amp like the PT100. And then in the 412s, we opted to go with the greenback V30 sort of split thing. Yeah. Okay, I got another super chat I got to grab there in a sec. Yeah. Do you get concerned leaving guitars out when you use the air conditioner and heater and who knows? Well, nah, not really. I mean, I can come here and honestly, like the heat in LA can be pretty intense, right? And then it's always pretty dry. Like, it rains rarely. So, but I find the biggest factor is not temperature, it's humidity changing. That's what'll change the neck, really. Like when the humidity changes, and I'll see the, if I fly cross country, it's been really dry here and I go to a rainy, I always find the neck overbows, it seems like. I don't know why, but, just the moisture or whatever, maybe saturating the wood, and then it does a different thing. I don't know, something. So, it's interesting, but I don't really worry about that kind of stuff. No, I don't. It doesn't, I don't know, there's nothing I could do about it. If, other than run a humidifier in here or something like that to try and keep it consistent. And I've never done that, like in 40 plus years of doing this stuff. So, Christian says, I have a cloudburst and golden reverberator on my board, strongly considering selling or replacing with the new Big Sky. Yeah, you could probably do just about everything with it. It is great, man. It's a really, really good sounding reverb. The display is beautiful. I know that's not what you buy it for, but it really is. And I'm looking at it right there. There it is. Ability to, the impulse reverbs are so cool, like the convolution reverbs, I should say. Impulse responses, basically. Super cool. So it's up to 10 seconds it'll do. IR is pretty great. What else we got here? Let's see. New Cure song Alone, pretty cool. I heard mixed reviews, but I'm glad to see that you like it. I heard some people say they didn't like it. And I was like, I don't know, is it just people being naysayers or something? I'll have to give it a listen. My knees hurt says I'm building another 6-foot tall cat tree climber. Cool. Let's talk about the important things. Oh man, the kitties. The kitties. Have I got any recent photos of Mochi? His name is Mochi now. Mochichi. We call him Mochichi. Where is he? Where is the little guy? Let me see. Oh, there he is right there. I gotta find a better picture than that. Let me see. Where is he? Where is he? There's the little dude right there. He's a good little guy. Just look at him. Oh, brother. What a goofball. He's a terror. Yeah. Chris says he had an Orville Les Paul and that it was amazing. That's cool. Yeah, they're really well made as far as the ones that I've seen. I mean, it was all like most. I mean, Edwards and Japanese guitars are just meticulous. They make great guitars. So, oh, that's cool. Uncle Larry had a killer double neck Greco. That's cool. Like a Gibson Jimmy Page situation. That's awesome. I'd like one of those. When you were designing your signature amps, how involved were you in the process? Pretty involved. Were you there with John picking on individual components, or did you do more testing? Both, but yeah, no, we did as much. I mean, like when okay, when we did the custom audio PT-100, John sort of like had an amp ready for me when I came out, and he goes, "Here, I made this for you. It's what you want, I think." And then I tried it, and I was like, "Great." And then I would take it and then go, I wish it had a little more of this or that. And then I would come back and we'd tweak it. And so my main one became like a mutt that was really modded and, with a bunch of changes and stuff. And finally, when we arrived, so it was like an amp that you could buy right away, but we did make changes to it over the years. When we made enough changes between 2008 or 9, when I got the first one, and 2013, we thought maybe it's time to put this out now because it's pretty different. And we released the Sir PT-100 then in 2013, Sir branded one. So that was a process of me asking for things over 4 or 5 years, and then the amp morphing into what it was. And then we, ended up with, and it would be like literally where I'd go out to him and he'd pull it out of pull the chassis out of the head shell, put it on the bench, and then he'd go, "Okay, what are you looking for?" And I'd go, "Well, it's just a little like whatever. I wish it was a little tighter in this like range, or a little more whatever, And then he'd go, "Okay, do you like this better or this better?" And he'd be like literally soldering components in and out on the fly while I was sitting there. So a lot of that. And then like even like the transformer, the output transformer, he made a switcher so that we could listen to different ones and pick one for the Sir version. So we bought about 6 different ones, from all different, we had Hammonds and Habers and Mercury and all kinds of different transformers. And we would go back and forth and listen to 2 and pick our favorite, because we could actually, with a switch, that's normally impossible. The output transformer takes like 15 to 20 minutes for even a really, really good tech to switch out of an amplifier. Takes a second. So how are you going to remember what it sounded like, right? Well, he built this switcher so that we could listen to 2 and then go back and forth. And then we'd pick the one we liked out of those 2 and then eliminate the one that we didn't like as much, put another one in, listen to those 2, and maybe, that one would now win. And then we'd eliminate the other one we'd picked from the first round, or not. We'd keep the first, you know what I mean? And we did that until we arrived at the transformer that we have in the amp now, which is basically a 1.5-inch stack diagonal 1967 Marshall sort of affair. Yeah. Made by Haber, I should say, not diagonal, but it's a reproduction of, the American-made transformer made by Haber. Yeah. So yeah, quite involved, and then speakers, we would like in the cabinets and stuff, we would listen to the cabinets and we'd gather a bunch of people around as Sir and like listen to the different cabinets and talk about what we each liked about them. And, ultimately I picked what I wanted, but it was pretty universal. I mean, it was like everybody was kind of on the same page. When we arrived at, for instance, the 2 G12H Creamback 75s and the 212, it was like, those just have everything, right? I mean, like they sound great on the clean channel, great on the dirty channel. They'll handle the power of the amp. Maybe we should just go this way. And everybody was like, sounds good. So, yeah. So, yeah. Recommend a specific capacitor for the Thorn Bucker. Do you mean for a treble bleed? Whatever. If you're talking about a treble bleed, whatever the Sir kind of cap resistor formula is, I'm a big fan of. So it's like they use a certain cap and resistor to get, a nice treble bleed that's got a nice even taper all the way down. And I like that. It's probably pretty easy to find on the internet. Somebody will probably mention it in the chat here, whatever the formula is. I really like it. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. I'm pretty far back in the chat, so I should move down. We got 261 people online. Nice to have you folks here this week. Thanks for being here. Live to play guitar there with a super chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thank you. Royce is pretty sure Echoplex provides no buffer. Yeah, I think you're right. I think an Echoplex is pretty high impedance on the way out. I remember that because the Clinch FX Echoplex preamp, really, really nice preamp that kind of fattens your tone, doesn't really add a ton of gain, a little bit of boost, but Clinch was a company in Australia and had this, one of the first Echoplex preamps in a pedal many years ago, probably almost 20 years ago, or 15 at least. But I remember it being like the original spec of him saying like, yeah, it's pretty high impedance on the way out because that's what an Echoplex was. So it won't really drive along cable length. you kind of maybe want to run it like back by the amp. And then he made one that had a lower impedance out just because it's like more guitar players might want that. But have you ever played aluminum neck guitars like the Travis Bean? I have not. I know them. I know what you're talking about, but wasn't ever really my thing. Can you elaborate more about how was building Cornell's home studio? Did you help him with his vocal gear? Sort of. His home studio, when I helped him get his gear, was basically he took a lot of advice from me and sort of copied the stuff that I had at the time. So he got Atom monitors, A7s. He really liked those. He ended up liking them. He got an API pre like me. He got hooked up with UA. I hooked him up with the nice folks at UA, so Apollo and stuff. And I'm trying to remember what else. I remember hooking him up with the 2 Notes Torpedo. He didn't really use that much, but eventually I ended up hooking him up with a Sur Reactive Load. That was, not, it was like late 2016. And he loved that. He loved the reactive load. I made him some channel strips in Logic with just like a plugin that had as an IR host. So I go, here, try these, like pull these up on a channel and then just plug your amp into the reactive load, take the line out and plug it into your interface and just pull it up on the channel and then have this channel strip active and it'll give you the speaker simulation. And he tried it and he was like blown away. He was like, this rules. I love this. And that was some of the last stuff he recorded was a bunch of things through that with that setup. And he had like a deluxe reverb and he had a PT100 at home. PT100, deluxe reverb, maybe a couple other amps. He had an AC30. Yeah. But he ended up, he was really into it, like the home studio thing. And he really enjoyed it. And he'd done it for years. And we would talk a lot about, we would just geek out on gear. He would call me up and go, have you tried this thing or this thing? And I remember one thing he was really into was the Neve, Rupert Neve, I think, summing mixer. He's like, yeah, have you tried these summing mixers? I'm like, oh man, that's like beyond my, like, where you can take multiple outputs out of your interface and go into a summing mixer and then sum it down to a 2-bus and analog summing essentially. Like, so all your drums and all your vocals would be in a different 2-channel bus, guitars, everything. And then it would provide some warmth going down to the stereo output. And so he got one of those Rupert Neve summing mixers and he was really into that. And he ended up building, so like when he was in LA still, which was like 2013, he had a bedroom studio. Basically it was like a extra bedroom. And that was the stuff he had. He had a kind of a duplicate of my studio, with the same API A2D. He had some Chandlers instead of BAE, but he had a couple of Chandler 1073 style pre's. What compressors did he have? I'm trying to remember if he had an LA2A or not. He really liked to gang compressors. Like, I think he had, I can't remember if he had an LA2A. I think he might have had some sort of LA2A thing, and he had an 1176 style compressor, I think. He might have had a 6176 like mine, too. I've got photos. I just can't remember right now. But anyways, that's the stuff that he had in the bedroom studio. It's sort of what I set him up with. And then by the time that he had moved to New York primarily, and by the time that he went there, then he had this whole other rack, because I ended up going there after he passed away and stuff and seeing all the, I went there to try to help them reset up the room for Tony, his daughter, to use. And I didn't realize like all the other stuff that he'd gotten. He had a full rack full of like other Chandler gear. Like it was like a great big rack full of some really like nice high end other mic pre's and stuff. And I just can't remember everything that was in it. And he had some beautiful microphones. He had a U67 that he'd had for years and years and years that he loved. I had recommended, because he wanted something else, I had recommended that he get the Mojave tube mic. I can't remember the name. I have one here, but I can't remember the name of it. It's like about $1,200. And I said, try this thing because I've heard it's really great for, and I've got one. I primarily use it on acoustic guitar, but I said, I heard it's really great on vocals. Maybe you'll like it. And he got it. He goes, oh yeah, this is like a great sort of like a little more modern alternative. My U67 sounds a little more like, old school or something. And then this one's got a little more modern sort of tube condenser sound, but it's really good. It's a good alternative. So he liked that. He had that. But we were just like two friends that would geek out on stuff. And then I would also help him. Like I would literally go, like we was in LA and I would literally go and buy like his computer for him. Like he would give me I remember because he needed help. He would be like working. I remember he's working on Higher Truth. Oh no, he was working on the covers record after Higher Truth was done at Henson. And he would be like, do you have any time? Like, I really need your help and I'll pay you or whatever. And like, I was like, you don't have to pay me, dude. Like, whatever, I'll just come by, we'll have lunch or whatever. And then I'll help you. What do you need me to do? And he would be like, I just need a new computer. I need a new laptop and I need the software installed in order so I can use UA and I need so that I can do stuff on the road. So I would go to the Apple store at like the Grove in LA with his Amex and I'd go buy like a laptop and I got him an interface, the little Apollo, the quad core, but the twin, the little guy. I got him one of those, and I would install all the software and Stephen Slate drums and the UA stuff and get it all working. Make sure the channel strips got him all the stuff. I would lay it out so that it worked like his other computer, that kind of thing. And then I just hang in the studio or whatever I was doing it or whatever. And it would be like an afternoon. I'd just go buy the stuff and then go and do all the installations and stuff for him. Because that's, I don't know. That's what I did. So that's that. But we were like two nerds that just geeked out on studio stuff, I liked it. Like I do with any of my friends, really, He was such a dude. He was just a dude, like super cool dude that just he had fun. He really loved it. Like we all do here, gear nerds and just creative and fun. Phil Collin uses Super Distortion. Yeah, I guess he did in his Ibanez, that black one that came out in the mid 80s. That's true. Yeah. That's interesting. Wonder if anybody else. Phil Collin and Def Leppard. Yeah, a couple people said. That's interesting. Yeah. Somebody saying, I don't know about people I wear a watch all the time. Never had a problem playing guitar. Take it off and playing nice acoustic. I've got this watch. I love this watch. Shinola. Is it called Shinola? Yeah, the Detroit brand, right? Love this watch that I got from. Ooh, can't see it. From them while I was on tour this year. I've always wanted a blue face watch, so silver. And but yeah, it does get in the way a little bit sometimes. It depends on the guitar I'm playing. If I play Gibson's, no problem. Actually, I can kind of play my signature with the Floyd on it, and it's no problem. But my other guitar is a little. It's like just depends on the guitar and the height of the strings off the body, So I'll generally take it off though when I'm playing, but sometimes I don't. I'm too lazy when I'm doing videos. You might see me wearing it, but I do like having a watch. I've always liked watches. I haven't had one for years, so. It's got one this year. Looking for any help you could provide on hooking up PT15 and wet dry wet setup with a Boss ES8 switcher and having Eventide micro pitch and STE 3000 EVH on the two wet sides. Okay. An ES8. I mean, the main thing, I don't know if an ES8, there's probably no way to do like a parallel mode in it, right? The question I would have, because I'm just not sure, is like in the RJM, for instance, you can use some of the loops and you can use them. It's got like an internal mixer and you can use a couple of the loops in parallel. You know what I mean? So that you could use some of the loops on the ES8 with pedals in front of the amplifier, then come out at a certain point, go to the front of the amp, take the effects send. Well, okay, so you want to do wet, dry, wet. You're going to need more power amps. So you have to decide what you want to do about that. You probably just want to... The nice thing about the PT is it gives you the line out. So it's very easy with the line out to run your effects. out of this. So you're going to probably disable the IRs with the switch in the back of the PT. And then what you're going to do is you're going to run, you want to run wet, dry, wet. So you need a power amp. So you're going to need some sort of stereo power amp. So you could use anything from a Seymour Duncan power stage, the stereo one, or you could use the little ISP one. There's more stuff coming out soon. I know Dave Friedman likes there's a Chris Lord Algae power amp that's made sort of for studio monitors, and he's tried it in guitar rigs and he really likes it. It's a class A/B, one rack space stereo power amp. Or you could get an older Moss Valve, you could get an older Rocktron Velocity, some sort of stereo power amp so that you can power your wet cabinets. Now, what you're going to do, I don't think the ES8 has any kind of parallel mixer in it. I'm 95% sure that there's no way to do it. So the two things you're going to need are a power amp, and you're going to need a parallel mixer. And so this is the best way to do it. You can futz around and do things other ways, but just do this and it'll sound epically huge and amazing. Get a good power amp, and then get the parallelizer from Musicom. Parallelizer mixer will allow you to keep a dry path going to those wet cabs. And also, so what you're going to do is take the send out of the, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but what you're going to do is take the send out of the back of the PT15, and that's what's going to go to the parallelizer. And then the parallelizer is going to have in it the Eventide micropitch and the SDE 3000 EVH. You're going to set those both for kill dry, and you're going to be able to blend those in at whatever level that you want them in. And then you're going to take the stereo outputs of that mixer, and they're going to go to the power amp and then to your two wet cabinets. And you're going to be able to have a mix of both dry and effect in both those outer cabinets. And it's all going to be in phase. So that's what you want to do. That's the way to do it. There's another mixer. There's a little one from, I believe, RJM. You could use the parallelizer, or you can use the little RJM one that lets you do two stereo effects and keep it dry path all the way through. I've got that on my little pedal board. On my big pedal board, I have the parallelizer. I do a stereo rig. I don't do a wet, dry, wet, but you can easily, with the PT15, because of that line out, it makes it really easy to take that, run it into the mixer, and have the micropitch in the SDE 3000 in parallel, and get your big old wet, dry, wet going. The ES8 is just going to be for your pedals and stuff in front, and then MIDI out to the micropitch. Well, the micropitch, if you're using just the pedal, it's not MIDI, right? Or is it? I don't think so. So it's just going to be that sound on, off, whatever you want. Maybe it is MIDI. I don't remember. But, you know, if you're either using an H9 and just saying micropitch algorithm, or using the actual micropitch, the red pedal that's dedicated, and then it's probably just a one sound thing. And it sounds to me like you want to do an EVH kind of thing. So you'll just leave it on that one micropitch sound anyway, right? But MIDI out to the SDE 3000 EVH, you can change presets on it, and that's going to come out of the ES8. And then if you want a MIDI switch with the ES8, you can MIDI switch the PT15 using this. I'll show you the little brilliant box. Sir made this. It's very inexpensive and very great. It's a little channel switcher. So you just send MIDI to this, and then it's got a TRS jack right here on this side that goes to your PT15 channel switch, and you can channel switch all three channels with this very easy. So it's really nice. You either send it programs. It's on channel 1 that this works. It's a preset. You can change the MIDI channel when you get it if you want to, but it's a preset from the factory on channel 1. And you can change between program change 0, program change 1, and program change 2. I'm finding in my Quad Cortex when I'm using it to switch this, those will switch between channels clean, crunch, and lead. Yeah. Pitching. So you need to buy a couple things: power amp, parallel mixer, little MIDI box, and then you need to rig it all up. But you end up with a fantastic setup that'll be pretty great. If anybody's coming to one of my clinics, inspired by the tone, I'm using the Quad Cortex for all my effects, 4-cable method with 2 PT15s in stereo, and it sounds epically good. I've been playing with it here all week getting ready for the clinics. So I'm really enjoying the little rig. Excuse me. Let's see here. Dave Murray, Paul Gilbert, Dimebag, all using super distortions in the 80s. I think Dimebag, didn't he use a Bill Lawrence? I think he used, wasn't he one of the, didn't he have the rails pick up the Bill Lawrence, the XL 500 or whatever the heck it was called? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did use super distortion, but that's my memory. Maybe you're right, though. I think maybe Paul Gilbert. Yeah, probably super distortion back in the day. Dave Murray for sure. But I think of Dave Murray more. I guess that's 80s. Yeah, sure. You know, yeah, Iron Maiden was around the 70s, but you're right. It's the 80s. Shredder, though, I don't think of Iron Maiden as shredders. They're more like classic metal, like kind of pentatonic. When I think of shred, I do think of Paul Gilbert, you know. Or I think of the guys like Jake or Jake wasn't really. I don't think any of these guys are shredders now, but I guess that's where the term came from. I don't know. By the time Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and stuff, they were using more like the PAF Pros and the kind of the lower output stuff. I don't think they were super distortion guys ever. Anyway, okay, what else we got here? Joe says, thanks for answering my question. I used mine last in my chain right before my SP compressor and use it always on to push mids. Is that the EQ, Boss EQ? Yeah. Earl says, that sounds like COVID. It could have been, but I'm pretty sure I got it from Britt because she had it. Like she got sick and then like 24 hours later I was sick and she was taking tests and they were all negative. So that's why I say, oh, it's just a cold, you know. But maybe it was COVID. I don't know. Hope not. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe. I mean, it just went fast. Could be, though. Maybe you're right. This is just stupid. I should have thought of that. But I don't know. I just thought because she was testing and then it was like they're all coming back negative and responding to like Dayquil and NyQuil and stuff. And that was working. It's like, I think it's just a cold virus, to be honest. Anyways, Dylan says there with the super chat, tell me in private all your guitar secrets. Have a coffee on me. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm drinking a pretty good one right now from a local place. Picked it up on the way here. Also, I think the more songs you learn, the easier it is to learn songs, says Mark. I think that that's true. Yeah, you get good at it. I used to think, like, I became aware in my formative years that it was like, I was like, I'm developing my ear to go in and grab this part and then pull it out. Like, and nowadays we've got Moises and stuff and Stem Splitter and we can isolate guitars or just find them on YouTube. Somebody else has already done it for you, right? And it's pretty great. But yeah, that was kind of the skill. It used to be so much harder to learn stuff. Yeah. 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 All right, what else we got here? Moving down through the chat. I had a jazz instructor that had over 1,200 standard memorized in his head. Wow, that's incredible. That's wild. Yeah, it's just the brain is an amazing thing, you know. It's unbelievable what you can remember. But when you think about it, I mean, like I was looking up how many words I need to know in Japanese to be fluent, and it's 3,000. They say 3,000 in any language, and you're basically fluent. I'm a long way off from that. I'm like, how am I ever going to get there? But it's amazing when you're learning, and you're like, it doesn't end. Like you know, you just kind of like you can keep remembering more and more and more and more and more and more things. So, and it really, there's nothing like learning a language and like kanji characters. I'm actually learning kanji characters. I always hated the idea of that. I'm like, I don't want to learn kanji. I want to know some Japanese, like enough to be able to speak and get around, do things, but I don't want to learn kanji. It's every course. They always insist on teaching the kanji. And like, I was like reluctantly doing it. You know, those are the Chinese characters. And, because they're so complicated and it's like, how am I ever going to remember this? But you start to remember it. And it's like, I'm pretty good at reading katakana and hiragana now, which is the other two Japanese alphabets. And I'm like, I can read like a 3 or 4 year old, but I'm reading, you know, it's like, I can look at it and I'm like, this is amazing. Like I'm looking at these characters and it's forming a sound in my head as I'm looking at it. I'm so used, we don't think about it with what they call Ramanji, which is of course Roman, you know, our system, you know, we don't even think about it. It's just natural, but it's amazing to look at something else and then have it form a sound in your head. I don't know. There's some people out there probably think that sounds so stupid if you can, you know, if you're already able to do these things. But to me, it's like a whole new world. I'm very excited about it. Fun. Anyways, oh, brother. Okay. Looking through. Oh, there's another super chat. Who's that? That's Peter. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate you. Thank you very much, man. Going to be able to buy some more coffee for the joint. I haven't made coffee here for a while, to be honest. I keep going out and getting it. It's just like faster and easier and more delicious. What's your Duolingo streak at? I am at 80. 80 days of working every day on it. So yeah. Okay. Just looking through your questions, comments, all that good stuff here. Find something. Sorry, lull. I think you're trying to say Strymon here will release a Timeline MX. I would think that they probably would. I don't have any knowledge of that, but I would think that they'll probably, you know, before long come up with some sort of other delay, right? You would think it would only make sense that always moving forward. So yeah. Did you see the new Gibson Victory yet? So that's the old shape from the 80s, right? That it's kind of funny, like these guitars that were never popular, and now they're kind of. I think I know the one you mean, but I'm gonna look it up here. Gibson, yeah, there it is. That guitar was never popular, and now here you see them putting it out again. You know, they did these crazy shapes in like 1982, sort of thing. They had these certain guitars. And it's got an Explorer headstock, and you can even get it in green. I gotta say though, like some of these new Gibsons, they're kind of cool looking. Like I sort of like the one that's got the pointy horns, you know what I'm talking about? And that one's kind of like, it's like I kind of want to hate it, but I kind of like it. You know, they for years, I gotta say, when Henry was there, I mean, they did the Holy Explorer and the Reverse Flying V, and there was just like, what is happening? Like, what are you guys doing when you put out new guitars? But some of these new ones, you know, as we get into 2025, it's like kids aren't going to be as married to the old designs as we are, you know? And so anything that kind of moves forward and looks a little different, but sort of familiar, I don't know, like some of these might work the second time around, is I guess what I'm saying. Got to keep in mind the Flying V and the Explorer weren't popular when they came out, and that's why they're so expensive now, because they only made a few hundred of each, you know? So kind of interesting. Yeah. Steven says, will you be gracing the chat Tuesday on Tone Talk? No, I'll be, I think Tuesday I will be doing my clinic in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I'll be busy doing that. But yeah, so JEL. Yeah, so you already know so that's coming. Which is pretty cool. I don't think the thing actually gets released for another few days after that, but I think it's going to be a soft, you know, sort of discussion release, something. I don't know, something. I don't want to say anything, but yeah, you already, if you know, then, you know, just trying to stay out of trouble. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Thought of using one for a spinning plenty pit. Are you guys talking about cats? You're talking about cats again. So I thought that was actually an amp thing, but you're talking about cat things that cats walk on. Have you seen the Beato interview with Rick Rubin? A little bit, just the clips that he's been putting up, but it sounds pretty good. I like the story about Hurt. you know, like he was kept sending it to Johnny Cash, and Johnny Cash wouldn't bite, you know. And then he's finally like, "What about that song?" And he was like, "I don't get it. I don't understand why you're sending me this song." And he was like, "Because it can be like this." And he sort of sang it to him with acoustic guitar, and then Johnny Cash got it, I guess, and they did it. And obviously, the rest is history. Um, it is such a great song, you know. Hurt. I got to do that once with Trent, by the way. I gotta say, because you know, I almost did it was quite close to doing a Nine Inch Nails tour at one point 20 years ago, and it was my second audition, because I did an audition without him there, but then I did an audition for him, and which was intimidating as hell because it was me playing the tracks while he was watching Nine Inch Nails songs. But he said, "How did you learn Hurt?" And I said, "I learned it on nylon string, like Robin played it live, you know, with in sort of the recent versions." And he said, "I'm going to come down and sing it with you." And he came down, he got a mic, and we played it together, just me on nylon string guitar and him. And I'll always remember that. It was very cool. And it was a good memory. And that moment, I was like, man, I was that gig, man. That gig was rough because it was like I wasn't like a huge Nine Inch Nails fan, and when like I just didn't, you know, it wasn't like my thing in the 90s or whatever, and then into the 2000s, and but I always appreciated it. It was kind of like from a distance, you know. It was like, you know, I kind of get it. And then like whatever, the whole sort of industrial thing, like it wasn't really where I was at, you know. I was a rock guy. And then when I started, like, I got the call to go for that audition, and I started working on it, and I started getting more and more into it because I started listening to the music and going, I think I really like this music, actually. And then I got so close to that gig where I had the new album that was going to come out, which at the time was With Teeth, and Trent gave it to me, and it was sort of like there was a moment for a few days where I was like, I think this is my gig. Like, I think I'm actually going to do this. I think it's actually happening. And he sent me home to learn the new record. And when I listened to that record, I was like, I really loved the record. And then my heart got tied up in the gig, and I really wanted to do it really bad. And then it didn't happen. And it was a really hard one for me. Like 6 months of like a little depression after that, of that not panning out. I was so bummed, honestly. That's when what was his name? Aaron, I think was his name, the guitar player that did that tour. And then Robin rejoined after that. But when Aaron went and did it, and I went to one of the shows and stuff like that and saw the gig and stuff, and it was like, that's also when Josh Freese ended up playing drums and stuff like that. It was, oh man, that was a rough one for me. It was really hard. There was those moments when I was like, I think I got this gig. I think I'm playing with Nine Inch Nails. It was like really, I was like, that was like pre-Cornell, pre a lot of stuff that I ended up doing later on, pre-Don Henley, pre-Cornell, and all the other stuff that I ended up doing touring-wise. But it was 2005. And I thought, oh man, I wanted it so bad. I could still feel that feeling of like, you know, yeah. And I liked Trent a lot. Like I really actually like dug his, I thought he was really brilliant, and I was learning things in there playing, like, because I was in playing with them and stuff and rehearsing and stuff, and the way he would talk and the things, I was like, I felt like I was at school a little bit. Not things where he was schooling me, but just the whole, like, let's approach this like this, and then, you know, this, and then what's that sound you're playing? And be like, I don't know, we need to change that like this because it's not special enough. I want everything that's going on. Anybody playing a part, like I don't ever want anybody to just play just because you're playing, like just to make noise. I want every part that's happening to be very special, and the sounds to all be really unique, and everything. That's the way it has to be. Like things like that, I still remember, and I'm like, I took that away from it. I was like, that's a great, like, if it's going on, it should be good, not just filler, you know. It was cool, and I was really enjoying that, and I thought this is going to be great for me on multiple levels, you know. Career wise, obviously would have been really cool, but also just from that perspective of learning stuff. So anyway, that's my Hurt story and my Little Nine Inch Nails. It's a longer story. I won't bore you with the whole thing. I probably told it before. Aston Ray, there was a super chat. Thanks for being here every almost Sunday. Love the stream. Thank you, man. I think I'm around next Sunday too. I should just double check the. Let's see. Yep. Yeah, I should be good next Sunday. I do have an exciting meeting next Sunday, but I will make this show happen no matter what around that meeting at some point. I might have to change the time next week. That's the only thing. I do have something going on the 13th, but so it's Sunday the 13th. But no matter what, I will. Well, it'll be apparent when I put up the watch page, like what time it'll be. It might just be at the normal time if I can organize this meeting at another time. That's not 11:45 a.m. Pacific. Okay, if you like the Mojave microphones, advanced audio out of BC makes very similar mics, but they are more affordable. Interesting. I should check that out. Are they're condensers and ribbons and stuff too? Because I know like Roy, I never really understood why Mojave does like the two. Mojave and Royer are the same company, right? And I never understood why they sort of have the one company for the condensers and the other one for the ribbons. But anyway, must be a reason. Is the Sweetwater stuff going to be on YouTube? No, it's a clinic for, I mean, there's going to be a bunch of stuff I do at Sweetwater that'll end up on YouTube, I'm sure. I'm supposed to go out and, because of course they've got Sir now, so I'm supposed to go out and make a bunch of videos and stuff while I'm there. I'm just think I'm going to be very busy for a couple of days while I'm there this week. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that it'll some of it'll end up on YouTube, but not the clinic per se. I don't like it when my clinics end up on YouTube. Like certainly not the whole thing, because then why would you come to the clinic? If you can just watch it on YouTube. I don't mind little portions of it being cut into a trailer or something, or a little 1 minute teaser or something like that is cool. But I want to keep it fresh because I do so much YouTube. So it's like when I go to a place to do a clinic, it's supposed to be me live. You don't want it to be. It's like if somebody's comedy special, if they showed up and they're going to film it for Netflix or something eventually, and it's going to come out, but you don't want to hear all those same jokes. You know what I mean? Like if somebody just films it and then puts it up on YouTube on their private channel, that sucks. It's the same sort of, right? So, anyways, Ben Tom says you are a considerate, kind, and thoughtful human being. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's all I'll say. I do. I try and, as I get older, to have more consideration and empathy. You know what I mean? Yeah, I do. Let's see. Is that based on a Neumann K67 module? Or are you talking about the Mojave mic? I'm not actually sure what they based it off of, but 1 inch diaphragm, big condenser, 1 inch, whatever the element, okay, what else here? For Apple fans, can you do basic recording? Example, Focusrite, guitar, bass, drum machine with a MacBook Air. I mean, certainly these days, yeah. I mean, you could run Logic on a MacBook Air and use a simple interface and probably get, easily, like, you could probably do a record on one these days. I mean, they're pretty powerful. You could probably do a record on an iPad these days. It really depends on what you're, if you're like, oh, I want to mix now and I want a million plugins. Well, maybe not, but, certainly recording and stuff. It's like modern computers we hit the point a while ago where it's like, recording became like word processing used to be, it's like computers have so much power now. So yeah, I mean, I think, you can do GarageBand on your phone, so it's like probably what you're saying, you could probably do on your phone. It's kind of amazing. Yep. All right. I believe the Chris Lord Algae amp is the Avantone Pro CLA 200 studio reference amp. Yeah, that's right. That's the one that Dave has used in a guitar rig or two, and says it's a good sounding amp for, if you want to do wet dry and you need a wet amp. Check that one out. I don't think they're very expensive. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of the Class D ones out there, and they're cool and they work in a pinch. Pretty cool. But I still prefer the sound of what I've heard, like, in, a good Class AB style amp. Um, so that's what that is, the Avantone one. Class D, for whatever reason, they're very light. However, they're made, they're super tiny and everything like that. And but there's always just a bit of a hardness to the sound. And if those out there maybe know what I'm talking about, um, the amp that's in the Black Star amped 1 and amped 2 pedals that allows you to kind of add a kind of tube tone power tube thing sort of takes care of that. When you put it in the flat setting, it's like, oh yeah, there's that Class D sound. And then as soon as you switch in the other modes, it's like, oh, it scoops up the hardness of the mids a little bit, and it does this bigger, it's like, yeah, that sounds more like a guitar amplifier to me, So, anyways, have you played many 18-watt style circuits? Marshall 1974 Watkins Dominator. What do I think? A little bit. I really like the little Marshall 1974 when they came out with that. I thought that little thing sounded great, and I loved the head version, that had the volume tone, the 2 channels. Really cool sounding, just like a little AC/DC machine, basically. Sounds great, or a little blues rock machine. Dig it. Light, great tone. That's kind of that cabinet too that went with those, is sort of what we modeled the PT-15 cabinet on. Just to be full disclosure, it was like that sort of vertical with the 2 speakers split like that, and like a little mini 412. So always liked those. Yeah. What are the frequencies you use on a GE7 pedal with a plexi? Well, if I was going for kind of trying to Van Halen it, like he would do just copy what you see him do with the GE10 or whatever the hell the big one was, Yeah, but you kind of, is generally speaking, if you're going into a plexi, it can be, when it's on 10 or whatever, it can be a little loose, so maybe drop the bass a little bit to just tighten up the low end a bit. And then, like, you want to just gradual mids to just give it a bit of because that makes it just snarl a bit going into the front of the amp. Just gives it a bit of a push. It sort of turns your PAF or whatever into a JB. It just gives you a bit of an upper mid push, and then you can use the level slider as you see fit to just clean boost a little bit. So you can kind of tighten up by dropping bass a little, target the mids, and then boost the level just a hair, and it gives you this just snarl, and tighten at the same time without adding a layer of fake sounding, overdrive. I say fake sounding, but it's like, an SD1 or OD1 or whatever, or a tube screamer can sound great going into the front of a dirty amp. It can sound really cool. Kind of does that thing too. It gives you a mid, but it also, if you turn the overdrive all the way down, you're barely adding any, IC based or whatever gain. But if you turn it up a little bit, you get that little layer of haze from an overdrive pedal that, if it's into a dirty enough amp, you don't notice it. If it's into a cleaner amp, to me, they always sound a little fake. But anyways. Yep, for lead tone, Dime using XL500. So I was right. Yeah, he used that. I remember just the blade pickup in his guitars. Yeah, Dime used super distortion in the neck. Did he? That's interesting. There's a lot of power in those pickups, both the Lawrence and the super distortion. Okay. When I think of shred, I think of Malmsteen. For sure, and Malmsteen was like no humbuckers. Well, humbucking single coils. He is HF3, of course, but they're pretty low output pickup. They're nothing like a super distortion. The DiMarzio did make the super distortion in a single coil. They called it the SDS1, right? Which I think was super distortion single with the little Allen screw poles and everything. And I had one. That was my first aftermarket pickup I think I ever bought, actually, was an SDS1. Put it in my Hondo. I don't have any idea what it sounded like. I don't remember. Can you instantly play an Iron Maiden song from memory? Yeah, I would screw up the solo, but I can play the riff right now. Let's see. I can find a pick. Could you even hear that? Because I've got the I've got the echo cancellation on. It might not have worked, but the Trooper. Yeah, I could probably play most of the Trooper. Isn't there? It changes keys in the solo at some point, though, and I'm not going to remember that. Okay. Any advice on dealing with cable distance when your amp room is over 50 feet away from studio recording room? Well, so a good buffer is your friend. If you're using combos, for sure, you're going to want a buffer. Nice quality buffer. If you're running a 50 foot of cable all the way out to your amplifier in another room. If it's speaker, just use good quality, like 13 gauge or 12 gauge or whatever, speaker cable, good thick speaker cable. That's what I do. I run about 85 or 90 feet of speaker cable from this room out into the other room, and I tested it and tried it and stuff, and there's no noticeable loss at all there's no problem with that. But it's good quality. I use this Sonox or something. It was like a German brand that they had at Pacific Radio. And I think it's 13 gauge speaker cable. So it's good, thick cable. I just made a snake with two of them running all the way out into the other room through a conduit. And then, just good quality. If you're running a combo and like a deluxe reverb or something, you want to run all the way out into the other room, just make sure you got a good buffer, I've got multiple different buffer situations in here, the Friedman buffer bays and stuff, and it's got his buffer, which is kind of a take on the Cornish one, I think. And that'll drive 50 feet of cable, no problem. You shouldn't notice any. It should sound very similar to... The key is find the guitar sound you like with the cable going into the amp. Right? So like if that's 10 feet, if it's 18 feet, whatever it is, and you're like, okay, I like that sound. Okay, now plug that into a buffer and then plug a good quality cable from the buffer all the way out to the amp. And it should sound very, very, very similar to the sound of that first cable plugged right into the amp, because you're buffering after that, decoupling all that, like any kind of, you're not getting any capacitance or anything. I mean, should be able to drive like, 100 feet of cable, no problems. I saw Beat this week with Blue Lemon Vi. And Carrie, how was it? What did you think? I have tickets for an upcoming show. Love to know what you thought of it. I had COVID round 2 a few weeks ago. It was very much like round 1, not fast. Interesting. It's a strange ailment. A vascular ailment. Okay. Let's see here. It's harder to learn. It's hard to learn stuff in the. I see what you're saying. It was harder to learn stuff back in the day, like when we were learning songs in the 80s and stuff. But I think that generation had better ears because of it, paying dues and all that. Yeah, maybe. Part of me thinks that like it seems like kids these days learn the hell out of stuff. Like I see a lot of people that have a lot of skill, so I agree we had to work hard back then, but maybe it's easier now to learn and get to a certain proficient level than it used to be because of all the tools. So people don't get as discouraged because maybe they get further faster. I could be wrong. Maybe that's just an optimistic viewpoint, but certainly seems like you see a lot of great guitar players that can at least, whatever, they're like 13 years old and playing this crazy stuff, because maybe it wasn't so daunting. Maybe guitars are just better too and stuff, or the gears, if you can have your little modeler and, you got a good little like Nu-X or Hotone or Moore or whatever, and it sounds good, you know, like, and you can get delay and all this, and you're sitting there with your $299 guitar, but it's pretty good, like, you know, and decent fretwork, and the action's good, and you can learn all this crazy stuff, and with all these new tools and apps and stuff, it's not so hard to get, you know. Yeah, we had to fight harder back in the day, but maybe that wasn't a good thing, or maybe it was. I don't know. Okay, there's a super chat I got to hit up there. I'll do that in just a second. I've been tracking DI guitars for my first time from home. Is minus 12 dB into UA Apollo sufficient? Yeah. Currently getting in the DAW at minus 12 to minus 10. That's more than hot enough there, Seth. You don't actually even want more than that, because you'll find yourself pulling the DAW faders way down in order to have any kind of headroom. So you're good there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Songs out YouTube and liking. Okay. Reading some questions. So there's another two super chats I got to get to. When I do that, I tap my signal from my Torpedo Captor 8 out to my stereo effects chain. The stereo out goes to 2 notes Torpedo Cab M plus IR DI boxes to PA, and a Roxon Velocity 120 amp to stereo cab. That's cool. So you can split it and not have speaker sim out to the Velocity and the stereo cab. Sounds like a pretty good setup. Yeah. Okay. Simple chord chart in here. The chords in my head. I got the Tone X1 recently with the intention of using it at the end of my chain as my amp, having trouble getting it to play well with my Wamper Pantheon Deluxe and not sound fizzy. Are you running the Tone X after the Wampler? The only thing about those Wamplers is they have kind of a low headroom, I find. So I'm wondering if you're running the Tone X out into it and maybe you're clipping it. That would be my fear with that setup, Rich. Or maybe you're running the Pantheon. I think that's their mod box, right? Wampler. Just experiment with, what is it? Pantheon 2. Oh no, that is a overdrive. Well, so you're running the Tone X after it. What amps are you? I see it's kind of like a Marshall Bluesbreaker, kind of warm sounding. Okay, so in the Tone X, maybe try a warmer sounding amp, because it sounds like you're running the Pantheon into it. And just make sure you're not overdriving the Tone X by hitting it super hard with a ton of level out of it. Like, are you boosting the Pantheon thing on 10 going into the Tone X? So I would just say that the Tone X is going to respond much like an amp, in the sense that if you've got a rather bright, sparkly clean that sounds great when you're clean, but when you hit it with a drive, it's like getting fizzy and blowing up. That's much like a deluxe reverb with a bright cap or something, right? So what are you running, I would say, as an amp in the Tone X? You know, just try something that's not so, it doesn't have like too sparkly aggressive. This is always the way, you know, with amps too. You know, it's like always that balance of, like, if you like a sparkly clean, then, you know, you got to be careful with what you're running into it. Yeah, it's something that Sir Riot is great at, because John is a guy that likes a sparkly, fendery clean, super reverb with the bright on sort of sound, you know, that kind of beautiful scooped clean, you know. But then hitting it with a drive, he kind of designed the Riot to be rather warm. So if you run all the controls on a Riot on 5, it'll sound pretty good going into a fendery clean that's quite sparkly. You know, it's interesting. So also, just turn the tone control down on the Pantheon. Back that down. It'll let less high end through to the amp thing. Try all that stuff. All right. Super chat here from Prebidden. Regarding wet, dry, wet, it's also good to have a couple of radial SB6 at hand to help with potential ground loop. The gig rig also has a couple of great tools. Yeah, or you can get on the cheap my favorite on the cheap. What the heck is it called? Okay, there's two things. There's an EbTech hum eliminator. You can get a dual version that has two sets of ins and outs, so two ISO transformers in one box. That thing's been. I'm using it right now to break the ground loop when I'm using my Quad Cortex 4-cable method into my PT15. I'll show you what it looks like because it's just easier. This guy right here, EbTech hum eliminator. See, it's got two ins and outs. So you want the 1/4 inch one. That's basically two ISO transformers in one box. It's great. Solves a lot of problems. I've always got that with me on tour. But there's another Samson makes one. Samson ISO transformer. I'm going to tell you what it's called. ML. What the heck is it called? The MLJ1? ML. Is that an I or a J? MLI1, I believe it's called. The Samson MLI1 mono passive isolation box. I believe that's it. Flexible connectivity with 1/4 inch and XLR style inputs and outputs. Anyway, ruler flat frequency response, mono light isolation, box eliminates hum and buzz caused by ground loops. Great little box. I've lost mine. I don't know where it is. I think I'm going to order another one right now because I'm on Amazon right now. When will it come? Free delivery Tuesday. Well, that's not going to work because I'm going to be in, so I'm not going to get one right now. But I already have my other one. So, but I don't know what happened to my Samsung. I put it somewhere, and I should get another one because I like having it around. But they're only $39. The Samsung's the cheapest one I found. So there's your little tip for the day. Thanks there for the super chat there, my friend. Appreciate that. It's 1:40. I got to split soon. I've been going an hour and 46. So I'll go another 10 minutes or so. I'll take it out close to 2 hours here, and then I got to split. Get ready for my trip tomorrow and stuff and finish up some work around here. Okay, but a few more minutes here. Let's hang. Let's see. Pretty sure I want to buy two Celestion Gold 10-inch speakers for an open back cab. Please tell me what it is you like. Just a really, really nice sounding speaker. They're a nice Alnico. The things we like about Alnico, chime compression, all that neat stuff. It's just a really, really good speaker. Sounds good. I like their greenback 10 too. Super nice in that greenback kind of way. It's more for Led Zeppelin or something, but the Alnico is you'll like them. Just get them and stick them in that cab and enjoy. What is one guitar player's tone that still gets you, makes you want to figure out how they got it? Well, you know what I'm going to say. Keith Richards' tone on Sympathy for the Devil. No, I'm going to say Eddie Van Halen. Was it Keith that played the solo on Sympathy for the Devil even? Or was it? No, maybe not. Maybe it was. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Eddie Van Halen, of course, is the one that where we're, always fascinated. Yeah. Oh, man. Ray says, ran into 9 Inch Nails tour on... Thanks for the super chat there, Guitar Picker. Appreciate that. Ran into 9 Inch Nails tour in Utah while touring with Peter Criss, bus full of debauchery. Well, I think back in the day, pretty debaucherous for sure, but Trent got sober and then he seemed to get super into working out and stuff, and that was the he just kind of redirected his focus, I think. That happens sometimes. So I saw 9 Inch Nails on that tour. Would have been cool if you'd been there. I did see you play with Chris a few years later at Hyde Park on your birthday. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you, man, for bringing up that fond memory of mine. Yeah, I was glad, the 9 Inch Nails thing didn't work out, but then got to do that. So later, maybe that wouldn't have happened if I'd been off doing something else. So pretty cool. Life happens the way it's supposed to, I guess. Yeah. I saw the tour as well. I loved the light show on that Nine Inch Nails tour. The With Teeth tour was like, I thought they were really pushing it forward as far as, and that's 20 years ago now. But man, the tour, they had the screen that would come down in front, but it was translucent, and then the one in the back, and it looked 3D when they went, like, there was, I remember this one, it looked like red rain coming down, and it looked like you were in it because it was like the two screens with the different things happening on them. I've never seen anything that looked like that at a show before. I thought it looked so cool. So it was an entertaining show for sure. Pete, I wish I had a songwriting course. Well, one of these days it's going to happen. Courses I was talking to some folks, friends of mine, the other week about that, and I think something I got to figure out at some point next year is some more course stuff. So, and like my own that I make, and then get them out there. So, just makes sense. What's a good gigging 212 combo for rock? And I'm tired of Fenders. 5150 Iconic maybe seems too gainy. I thought it was a pretty good amp, actually. I tried one. I thought it was pretty decent for the dough. You might consider, Friedman runts, maybe like a runt 20 or runt 50 in a combo as well. I think it's a good, sort of BE-ish channel and a Fendery channel. Quite good, good gigging combo. Check out what he's got. If you want to rock, that's the way I would probably go. If I wish we had a combo, we don't. I would recommend my own, but we don't have one, so it's too bad. But anyways, there's another super chat there. Hey man, hit us with some nostalgia. What's your top three favorite rack effects from the 80s, 90s? What pedals or units? Ooh, well, I would say like probably the I'd love the idea of a micro pitch, so it's like hard to get by the H3000 because it's like crack or whatever. I've got a tri-stereo chorus here that I love. So it's the full tone version, but it's a recreation of the old Dyno My Piano or whatever, the old Ditronics or whatever it was called. Pretty awesome. It's like a one-way ticket to the 80s. Sounds really cool. It's a different sound than a H3000, but it's really cool. What else? PCM 42, juicy with the little preamp circuit in it. Really nice. Great delay. What else? PCM 70, the circular delays, and lots of killer stuff in there. I like the 2290 now that I've spent a little more time with it. It was something that I hadn't spent a lot of time with, but when I got the pedal here to make a video of, which you can see my video on it if you like, I got it finally. I spent some time with it. Okay, I see what this does really well. One of the things I loved about it was the split that you could do with it. If you watch my video, that's how Petrucci used to use it, to delay one side 7 milliseconds, not even as an echo effect, but like as a stereo split with no mod. Really cool. Worked great for that. Had a great sound. So yeah, there's a few, PCM 42, of course, the SD 3000, H3000. Wasn't really an SPX 90 guy. Tri-stereo course. Sure. Love spending Sundays with you. Thank you, Dory. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks for hanging with me. I love doing this too. I love spending Sundays with you guys. I look forward to this every week. I really do. Get up Sunday morning, set my alarm, make some coffee, and get ready to come over here. I look forward to it. All right. A few more questions here. Let's see. Manchester is going to bill Oasis for all costs associated with putting on their massive home shows. Is this normal? I don't think so, but maybe it's an unusual event in that it's going to require something like, the Olympics, a lot of resources. All the shows sold out in the States. I think they've got 2 Rose Bowl shows in the States sold out. That's right by me. I'd love to go. I could literally walk there. But I don't think like I it's how am I going to get a ticket? It's like I guess I can buy one on the secondary market for some insane price. We'll see what's going on if I'm even around when they're happening. I might have to go though if I can get a ticket for something like less than $500 or something, just to see this. It's like it's kind of crazy. It's like they were never that big here. I was in a band called Sparkler in the 90s, 96, and the previous year Oasis was playing in LA at the Gibson Amphitheater, which would have been the Universal Amphitheater then, which is about a 5,000 seater. And it was a great old venue that's not there anymore. And I love that venue. I don't know why it went away. It was super cool. I love seeing shows there. But anyways, and Sparkler, the band that I was in, like this would be previous to me joining, but prior to me joining, they were supposed to open for Oasis at the Universal Amphitheater, and I think somebody was too drunk and they canceled the show. Somebody was hungover, so as you would expect from Oasis back then, in those days. So they were super bummed because they never got their chance to open for Oasis. But then I joined the year later after that happened. But anyways, I remember the point being that they played. Or were going to play like a 5,000 seater in LA. They weren't a huge band in America. I don't really remember them being like they certainly weren't a stadium band in the 90s. Whereas in England, of course, they were absolutely massive. And maybe some other parts, maybe like Brazil and stuff. I'm not really sure like if they ever went to those places that much. I don't really know that history of it. But the Oasis documentary that's on, I believe it's on Netflix, is worth a watch. If you were ever if you're like, I don't get it, even if you don't like them, it's kind of, I like how Noel Gallagher says people will never forget how you made them feel, and a lot of their songs were about feeling. It was about like kind of everyday people feeling great. It was about like, if you're British and you spend some time there, and it's kind of like if you grew up middle class or whatever in England, they were kind of those kids. They were like, middle class, maybe even lower middle class or something, just kids in a band with some Epiphone Les Paul. And then they went to the top, and they kind of made people like feel like, I don't know, there was a bit of an epic feeling to it all, like where it was like, it's great to be alive, even though things suck sometimes or whatever. That was sort of what I took from it, Live Forever. That song was a response to, what's the Nirvana song? I Hate Myself, I Don't Want to Die, or whatever, where Noel was like, hey, I love, Kurt Cobain and I'll appreciate him, but that song's, BS. Like, I can't get with some guy saying like, everything sucks and I want to die or whatever, basically. Like, it was like, his response was like, I want to live forever, like it's great to be, like whatever, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. He wrote that song in response to that. And that was kind of the feeling, was like, and then in that documentary, he says, people will never forget the way you made them feel. And that's why there's such a big response to if you don't get it, sometimes you had to be there, I guess, to get it, and there's a tribal thing that happens with music. I didn't really get, like club music and stuff until I went to Ibiza and experienced it when I was there, and then it's like when you're in a room full of like whatever, there's 10,000 people and there's a good DJ or whatever, and they're kind of driving the whole thing, and then it explodes, the energy, and it kind of comes up and down, and you're like, okay, I get this now. It's this tribal, we're all here together doing this thing, much like a rock festival or like and when you're in it, I understand now. So, and that I think was Oasis, so that the documentary is good. If you haven't checked it out, it's pretty great. So check it out if you haven't, even if you don't really like them, and it might make you, if it sounds interesting to you, you might enjoy it. To understand the phenomenon. I quite liked it. And then I've often said, but I really like Noel's solo work post. Like, he put out an album in 2013 that I really, really like. So this High Flying Bird stuff, I felt like he grew as a songwriter, and kind of the things that he was touching on, the sonics. It wasn't just all, like that Oasis sound. He kind of branched out quite a bit and did some pretty cool stuff. So I'd love to see what they did together now. If they could actually like make some new music, that would be interesting to me for sure. There's a super sticker from Live to Play Guitar. Thank you so much. Appreciate the super chats. And thank you very much. I got one to get to up there. I think that's from Peter up there. Ben, Tom, did you use custom cables between your switcher and all of your heads, or are they standard length of cable? It's a lot of Providence. I've got some others because I didn't have enough Providence to do the whole rig with. I love Providence cables though from Japan. They make great cables. I use a lot of different stuff, but if I'm looking at there's a Providence, at least half of the stuff is Providence cables, and then just some other good quality stuff. Everything's all buffered, so it's like, as long as it's a good cable, I think this one's a Megami going to my PT15. As long as it's a good quality cable, everything's buffered very well going through. There's a lot of cable length going to the switcher and then out of the switcher to the heads and everything, but there's no loss. Often I'll do something where like I don't run through the switcher. I'll like just go right into the PT15 or whatever with a guitar cable, and it's the same sound as if I'm using my, the Ampete switcher and everything up there, and it's going because I'm buffered early on. I've basically got, generally speaking, I've got my pedal board underneath my desk here when I'm working in here and recording, and I'll run through my pedals in case I want to add a compressor or an overdrive or maybe the freak out pedal or a boost. So I go out of the guitar with about a 12-foot cable or something, and I go into the Friedman buffer bay and I hit his buffer first, and I come out of that and I go into actually another buffer bay that's just true bypass and not using the buffer on it, mounted on the corner of my desk over here, and then that is running through all the way to the switcher up there. So there's probably a good 10, 20, and then this would be a 20. So there's about 40 or 50 feet of cable going all the way up to there, and then another 15-foot cable going out to each amp. So it's got to be buffered well, or I would be getting some serious loss. But I don't get any loss because I've tested it all thoroughly and stuff, and it's all good. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, playing Van Halen 2 today for the third time in honor of Ed. 10/6/2020. He passed away 4 years ago. That's right. So we miss him every day. We do. If you're an Ed aficionado and fan, we miss that dude. Okay. Interesting. You liked that 20-watt Marshall head. Funny, it sounds good for AC/DC when they never used them. Interesting how that happens. I'm looking to get an 18-watt combo or Watkins Dominator. Yeah, I think they're great. I mean, I think the 18-watt combo is sort of, it's not a hard rock amp. It's more a bluesy rock amp, but it'll do it, and it'll sound really cool, and the head is cool. So, yeah. Let's see. Is Levin playing the Chapman stick with the beat on the Beat Tour? I believe he is. Yeah, I saw some videos. I think I saw him doing that. Yeah. I saw Mike Lando jamming out on your IG story this morning. That was a very nice treat. Yeah, I was right in front of him watching him last night. He's so good. It's like, oh God, he was amazing. For those that joined late, I went to the Mike Lando, Val McCallum, and Kirk Fletcher gig last night at the Mint. They're kind of getting a new gig there together sometimes. I've always seen Mike at the Baked Potato, but now they're doing these Mint shows, and pretty awesome. So they sounded amazing. Travis Carlton on bass with Mike, and oh my God, on drums. Come on, Peter. What is the problem? I'm totally spacing. He's so amazing too. It's gonna come to me in a second. I played with Steely Dan and Sting. I keep thinking Kirk Fletcher because Kirk was there, but that's not. Who's the fellow that was playing drums last night? I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. I am a little bit out of it from this, like, whatever this thing I've got. Oh man, I'm not gonna remember, but anyways, it's like I can't believe I forgot his name on my show. It's terrible. Anyway, he's an amazing drummer. Sting, Keith Carlock. That's it. Keith Carlock. So good. Oh my God, what a drummer. Unbelievable. What makes Landau so special? Is it his note choice or tone? Well, okay, so it's really imperative that at some point you see him live so you can see, but there is no better improviser on planet Earth. You get a direct connection from this guy's mind coming out of the guitar speaker instantly. It's a constant flow of ideas, and they're great ideas, and there's a lot of them. So it's like it's constantly coming at you in a very dynamic way. He's constantly switching between his fingers and a pick, the pickups on the guitar, technique, dynamics, note choice, tones. He's constantly switching effects, doing it all in a seamless way that just seems like he's talking to you. He's a communicator on the guitar like nobody else. And it would be like, I don't know how to describe it. I know this is a bold statement, but people ask me what it's like. And because, you know, he's not as well known as, say, Jeff Beck, but I say it's like Jeff Beck. And I feel bad saying, I'm a big Jeff Beck fan. I love Jeff Beck. It's like Jeff with a wider vocabulary. And that's not a diss on Jeff. I've seen Jeff multiple times live, always brilliant, always amazing. But you know how Jeff could talk through the guitar and how he can make it sound like a singer sometimes and stuff. But a lot of the times he sort of did it with that similar sound. You know, he would use his signature kind of tone to do it. Yes, very dynamic and different volume levels and stuff, but it was that one. Mike is like that. Like, what if you had, it's like, what if Jeff had all the way from crystal clean and like whatever to full blown fuzz to a super short slap delay that comes in when to like a univibe that was like, you know, hammering you to like, you know, I don't know how else to describe it, but that is it's just like this, the variety of stuff that's coming at you, and it's all doesn't seem like a gimmick or like and none of it seems he can also, like with his tunes, you know, there'll be a theme to them. There's obviously parts and things like that, and really cool, like super cool. But he can reinvent them in ways like the head of a tune or whatever, thinking of jazz lingo, you know, he can play it in so many different ways, in different octaves and with a different sound and a different, that it's like it's amazing, you know, the range. And so you can go there and stand there and watch him, and all the guitar players are just going like, can you believe this? Like you're watching it and everybody's just looking around. He just looks like he's having the best time. And everybody's just like getting their minds blown, you know? And then everybody always walks out shaking their head, like going like, oh my God, like, and it really makes me, I love it. Some people, I guess I could get a little discouraged by it sometimes because it's a lot, you know? And it's like, you feel like, will I ever be able to do that? Probably not. Like, will I ever touch that? Probably not. But the beauty of it, if you look at the bright side of it, is that it always gives you something to shoot for. And it kind of makes you feel, he makes me feel like I felt when I was really young watching guitar players and I didn't understand what anybody was doing. You know, it was like when you watch people play, it's like, how do they do that? Like, it's so amazing. I want to be able to do that. And it inspired you to like want to practice and learn to play. It's like that again, you know, it's this fire like under your butt to like pick up the guitar and just, you know. So it really and he goes for things, you know, and he's not afraid to, like, if there's a mistake or whatever, like, so what? Like, you would never know, in kind of a Hendrix way where it's like, you know, or it's out of tune or whatever. He'll just bend it into something that sounds cool or whatever. Like, he doesn't get, there's no in that master Jimmy Page sort of improviser way of like where Jimmy Page like doesn't ever seem bothered when he's playing, and if he misses a note or it's part of it, and it's so cool because he just goes on to the when I see Jimmy Page play, sometimes he's playing solos, he's like hitting every 2 out of 3 notes that he's going for, you know, and there's a slop factor to it, but he's like in the moment and it's going by and it's like it doesn't matter. It's like that's part of like what I hope I can get to at some point, is that sort of freedom to just keep communicating, and it's part of it because we're imperfect and we're not these perfect shredder, every note's got to be super clean and whatever. Like, that's not human. We're not, I mean, as I'm saying it right now, I'm like, you know, stopping and halting and and that's sort of what improvising is, I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like I'm trying to explain something like I'm talking right now. I want that kind of freedom in my musical expression, So anyway, Mike's the pinnacle of that. Like, he's just such a master. That's a long ass answer, but and you really just have to see him, and it's so inspiring. There was people there last night from Turkey. There was people there last night from Argentina. There was Scott McKeon was there last night. Great guitar player. Plays with the band Rufus Black in England. He came to see the show because he's in town to do a show. So there's a lot of people that had, come to see it, and they all got their minds blown. Everybody certainly was happy to be there. So it was pretty great, Great show for having cold, sir. Thanks, Peter. Videos this week. Yeah. So video for the thing that we talked about earlier that I thought I wasn't supposed to talk about, but it's a pedal thing that I'm just not going to talk about it, but it's coming this week. I thought I wasn't supposed to bring it up, but maybe it's okay. Also, pedal. I forgot that I did a video for the Pog, of course. So the Strymon Big Sky, and then I did a video for this guy this week, the Pog 2. So check that out if you haven't seen it, please. And if you like it, hit the thumbs up, Video for this guy as well coming. I got a lot going on this week, but I'm gonna try and get all this stuff edited for sure. Like probably this one this week, and then the other thing that I can't tell you about. There'll be 2 videos this week for stuff. All right, I think I should go. This is really fun this week. I had a great time. Keith Carlock, there was the guy I was trying to remember. Amazing drummer, one of the best. Travis Carlton, not Carlson. You're thinking of Jurgen Carlson, who played with Mike at the last show. Travis Carlton, who's Larry Carlton's son, actually, and Keith Carlock, favorite for that style of music. Travis is a wonderful bass player. So is Jurgen, both great bass players. But yeah. I think Landau's most impressive thing is his level of improvisation on the spot. Yeah, level is like he's on a very high level, like the best of anybody. Fletcher is phenomenal as well. Absolutely. Mike was giving Kirk big props last night, saying that he's got the deepest well of anyone he's ever heard, and he's a beautiful sounding, just his phrasing and tone and everything. He's a super legit sounding, Kirk. And he's a sweet guy too. I've known him for a number of years. He's always like very nice, and it's always good to see him. And I didn't get to see his whole set last night, but I saw him sit in with Mike on a couple tunes, and he sounded great as always. So it's really nice to see him as well. All right, a couple more questions because I'm just here. So let's run through these quick. Seems like this year, many more affordable options and guitars under 500 down to 200, surprisingly high quality. Have you tried? Yeah, most of the Fender stuff that I've seen, that's like the Affinity stuff, the Squire, like the amazing, I think really good quality. They seem like great instruments for the money. I'm a big fan of the PRS SE stuff in the lower. I think they were one of the first ones to make some good stuff that was an overseas version of an American guitar, and it was like, this is pretty solid, pretty great. It's kind of all there. So there's a couple. Yeah. Chris says he's just moved to LA. So far, I played a few shows on guitar for Faster Pussycat, looking to get some more gigs and session work. Dude, it sounds like you're doing the right stuff. Just get out there and go meet people. That's the way. You got to just meet people and go out to things and make friends, and it just one thing leads to another. That's how it happens, really. But it sounds like you're making good progress. If you just got here, and I hear Faster Pussycat sounding great these days. I actually saw I'm not sure if you play with this other fellow, but there was another guy that I met the other day that I think plays quite regularly with them, and he was mentioning how great it's been as of late. That it seems like it's in a really good place right now, so that's cool. One of those late 80s LA bands having fun out there on the road, still doing it. Bent Tom says Scott Anderson's great, but I only met him once and he was a jerk. Scott's a sweet guy, man. He's got a lot of opinions. And he's a really good guy. I love Scott. So he I've known him for a long time, and I know he can be strong with the way he words things sometimes, or maybe he could be in a certain mood or something. But generally speaking, Scott's a lovely guy. So just know that he's a character. That's all. He's definitely a character, you know. But I like that because he's one of a kind, and he means well, and he's a very he's at the core. He's a really, you know, he's a good dude. So just know that maybe he was just, you know, give everybody a mulligan or whatever, for a little golf reference for you there. All right, I'm gonna split you guys. Have a great week. Be nice to one another out there, and I got to take that. Scott Anderson's a jerk because he's not a jerk. He's a great guy. Take that off the screen. Have a great week, everyone. I agree. Thank you there, Deep Squirrel. Thanks for your super chats. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Time might change next week or maybe not, but I'll put up a watch page before just in case. And we'll catch you in a week. All right, everybody. Rock and roll. Take care.